Welcome, everyone, to Intensity Broadcasting for tonight's coverage of the SCSRA Xfinity Series. Tonight, these Xfinity cars will be taking on the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway for 77 laps of racing action. I'm going to be your announcer for tonight. My name is Atlee @ManWees, and I'm excited to call every second of tonight's Alabama 200. Right now, we've got about 3 minutes 14 seconds here in practice. Brian Merle Jr. on the top of the board. We've got drivers going around the track practicing the pack racing we are going to see all throughout tonight's event. This is going to be a fun one. Super Speedways, always unpredictable, always produce great action. I think tonight is going to be no different. Now, last week we were at Homestead Miami Speedway, a little bit of mile-and-a-half action, and we saw Jeffrey Belk grab his third career win, second win of the season. He dominated the race, leading 80 of the 130 laps. After starting in ninth, finishing second was Devin Butchno. He led 3 laps. Third was Brian Merle Jr., who led 15 laps. Finishing fourth was Dave Wright, and then rounding out your top 5, that was Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence. Finishing sixth was Eddie Morris, who led 27 laps. Eighth was Joe Wright, who led 2 laps, and ninth was Josh Hall, who led 3 laps. All right, so after the events of Homestead Miami Speedway, here is a look at who advanced to the next round, who advanced to the round of 8. Starting off, Colin Willems, Josh Hall, and Brett Merle, they all unfortunately have been eliminated from the playoffs, so they are no longer competing for the championship, but we are now down to 8 drivers that have a chance at winning the SCSRA Xfinity Series Championship. First of all, we've got the drivers above the cutoff line, and those are Brian Newty, Jeffrey Belk, Austin Blaylock, and Devin Butchno. These are drivers heading into this race with a good points outlook, and they're hoping to stay above the cutoff line. And then we have the drivers below the cutoff line: Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, Brian Merle Jr., and Dave Wright. These drivers are going to try to have a good race tonight and work their way above the cutoff line so that they can advance to the Final Four. I also want to talk a little bit about our team standings. Teams very important in this series. Right now, leading the team standings, that is CCM. They've got 8 wins this season. Those wins have come, 6 of them have come from Brian Newty, and 2 of them have come from Austin Blaylock. Second in the team standings is Intensity DBC Racing. They have got 2 wins this season, both of them coming from Jeffrey Belk. Third in the team standings is Neon Racing. They've gotten 1 win this season, and that 1 win came from Devin Butchno. Fourth is Wasted Wages Racing. They've gotten 2 wins this season, both of them coming from Colin Willems. Fifth is Cheeseburger Motorsports. They have not gotten a win this season. Their highest driver in the point standings is Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence, who currently sits 14th in the standings. And lastly, rounding out the team standings, that is the Independents. The highest independent driver in the standings is Edward Manning, who sits 19th. All right, it is now time for qualifying. Drivers will get 2 laps to try to set their best possible lap time, and that will determine where they will start in the feature event. So we're waiting for some drivers to head out there on track. I don't know if we will see this. This could possibly happen. We may see some drivers choose not to turn a qualifying lap so that they can start in the back. And if they can do that, they'll probably choose to ride around in the back for the first half of the race. And that is because so they can avoid any wrecks that are to happen up front. And if they're in the back, they'll have ample time to avoid the wreck. we've got Joe Tardif heading on to the track in that 48 machine. He is going to be, he is number 1. So Tardif, number 1 on the ticker, number 1 on the track. He is making his second start of the season. He had a good first start, resulted in a top 10. Looking to grab his first top 5 of the season here tonight at Talladega. And I believe that top 10 came at Atlanta. So he has proved that he is a very talented super speedway driver from Bellevue, Florida. He is driving with Neon Racing. There's Jeffrey Belk, last week's winner, riding all the way up against the wall through turns 1 and 2. Looking for his 3rd win of the season and hoping to punch his ticket into the Final Four. If a playoff driver wins tonight's event, they will be locked in to the Final Four. So a lot of drivers hoping that will happen. There's Brian Merle Jr. crossing the start-finish line, getting ready for his first lap. Brian Merle Jr. has won at a super speedway here in this SCSRA series. It was not in the Xfinity series, though. He won in the Truck Series at Talladega. Joe Tardif to the top of the board. 54.14 is the lap time for that one machine. He is the only driver to have turned a lap. What you're going to see is a lot of drivers. Oh, there is Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence able to get to second with a 54.86. Like I was saying, you're going to see a lot of drivers run that first lap, against the wall. And then right before they take the white flag, they'll work their way down to the yellow line and hug that yellow line throughout their second lap. And when they're running up against that wall, that's the longest way around the track, so that's given that car ample time to build up momentum for that second lap. So most drivers are going to see improve on that second lap. So Joe Tardif remains in first. Cheeseburger, he is 7 tenths behind him in second. Third is Brian Merle Jr. He ran a 54.99, putting him 8 tenths behind first place, Joe Tardif. Devin Bucciano on his first lap, hoping to win his first oval race of the season. Devin Bucciano, he has been fast all season long. He's been very consistently in the top 3 and the top 5, but he's only broken into victory lane once, and that was at Watkins Glen, a road course. So he, like I mentioned, looking for his first oval win of the season. Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence to the top of the board, 54.13. That will put him 100th ahead of second place Joe Tardif. Third is Brian Merle Jr., who ran a 54.18, putting Jr. about 400ths off of Michael Lawrence. There's a driver who could drive this track with a blindfold on. That is Josh Hall in the 81 machine, one of the best super speedway drivers in this series. He has got a ton of experience under his belt in various super speedway series. He ran in the F&D series that was previously broadcasted on Intensity Broadcasting that had been running for an extremely long time here on iRacing. And now he has brought his talents to the SCSRA Xfinity series. But I will say this, despite how much of a great super speedway racer he is, he has not been able to break into victory lane. He is like Dale Earnhardt Sr. for Daytona 500s. He just hasn't been able to be at the right place at the right time and break into victory lane. So tonight could be the night that Josh Hall can grab his first ever super speedway victory in this Xfinity series. We see Devin Bucciano on his second lap. He will improve, and he goes to the 4th place position. 54.19. 500ths off of Michael Lawrence. Right now, your top 5 less than a tenth off of each other. That's how tight super speedway qualifying is. Want to give a big thank you to our series sponsor, Dev Sports Cards. Dev Sports Cards was established in 2013 by SCSRA driver and Neon Racing team owner Devin Bucciano. Dev Sports Cards specializes in all your sports cards and gaming cards needs. From football, baseball, and basketball cards to Pokemon, Dev Sports Cards sells it all. On their eBay store, you can find a wide variety of items from high-end sports cards to their weekly 99-cent starting bid 7-day auctions. Don't have time to sell your own cards? Reach out to Devin and ask about his consignment services. Simply package them up, ship them out, and Devin will get them listed, sold, and then you get paid. Dev Sports Cards can be found on eBay with 4,000 plus positive feedback, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Dev Sports Cards is a proud sponsor of the SCSRA series and Intensity Broadcasting. So thank you so much to Devin Bucciano and Dev Sports Cards for sponsoring this Xfinity series. Definitely make sure to go visit Dev Sports Cards eBay store. I have put the link to the eBay store in the description, so you can go check it out and go purchase some cards. I've looked on there. They've got some great items. And it's not just sports cards. They've got, like, relic cards. I saw something that was like a cashmere sweater that was worn by John F. Kennedy. There's a lot of great items on the Dev Sports Card store. He's got NASCAR stuff. It's everything you could possibly want if you were a sports card collector. So definitely make sure to visit that eBay store again in the description. Dev Sports Cards. Right now we're watching Joe Wright, another phenomenal super speedway racer. He is on track. He knows how to get it done in this series at Talladega. He won the first ever SCSRA race here at Talladega all the way back in 2021 Season 1. Looking to grab his second career win in this Xfinity series here at Talladega tonight. And he's already starting off the night with a great qualifying run. He is to the top of the board, 54.09 for Joe. And Eddie Morris, his teammate, able to get to second with a 54.10, only 100th off of Wright. So, top two very close to each other. Intensity Broadcasting is proud to be partnered with the Butt Kicker, and for those of you who don't know what the Butt Kicker is, let me tell you a little bit about them. Butt Kicker is the established and trusted leader in gaming haptics. The award-winning line of Butt Kicker products lets users feel ultra low-frequency sounds. Their products are used and endorsed around the world by leading PC and console gamers, including professional sim racers. The patented design makes them incredibly accurate, powerful, and virtually indestructible. The Gamer Plus is the new and upgraded sim racing and gaming hardware that reproduces immersive, accurate, and powerful sim racing, flight sim, and gaming effects. To check out the full line of Butt Kicker products and figure out which one is right for you, visit thebuttkicker.com. Again, thebuttkicker.com is the website belonging to the established and trusted leader in gaming haptics. So thank you so much to the Butt Kicker for partnering with Intensity Broadcasting. Definitely make sure to check out their website. I put the link to it in the description. Butt Kicker is easy to install to whatever type of sim rig you have, whether it's just a desk chair or a full-fledged sim rig. They make fantastic products, really enhances your iRacing experience. You can feel every little thing, and it can help improve, and it can help you improve as a driver. So definitely consider picking up a Butt Kicker. Well, we've got a pole sitter, and that is none other than Dave Wright. He has grabbed his first pole of the season. 54.086 is the time for that 84 machine. Again, Dave Wright starting on the pole. Outside of him is his brother, Joe Wright, in the 82, driver for CCM. Third is CCM's Eddie Morris in the 8. Fourth is Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence in the 47. And rounding out your top five, that is the number 1 of Joe Tardif, driver for Neon Racing. Sixth is Neon Racing's Brian Merle Jr. in the 13, starting outside of his teammate. 7th is the 68 Neon Racing driver of Devin Buchno, starting behind his teammate. 8th, that is IDBC Sim Racing's Jeffrey Belk in the 54. 9th is the 81 IDBC Racing driver of Josh Hall. And rounding out your top 10, starting outside of his teammate. And last but not least, that is IDBC Sim Racing's David Hartney in the 43. Now, we do not have the quantity of the field tonight. Only 10 drivers, but I'll tell you what, this is a quality field. Some of the best super speedway racers that I have seen in my years of broadcasting here on iRacing. I think this is going to be a really, really fun race. 10 drivers, all with a chance to win. Playoff hopes on the line. I will say this, the front 2 rows, they are not teammates. Dave Wright is with IDBC, while Eddie Morris, who is behind him, is with CCM. While on the high side, Joe Wright is with CCM, and the driver behind him, Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence, he is working with Neon Racing tonight. Here we go, the intensity building. Remember, we've got that long front stretch here at Talladega. Makes for some phenomenal finishes. Pace car making that left turn onto pit road. Drivers getting bunched up, bumper to bumper. And green flag is out here at Talladega. The Talladega 200 is underway. There is Dave Wright taking off, leading the field into turns 1 and 2. He's got his brother on his outside. He's getting a good push from his teammate Eddie Morris, but there's a big gap on that bottom between Eddie Morris and the next car of Joe Tardif. We'll see if anybody drops down to that bottom lane here. There we go. The gap between the second and third cars on the bottom closing up. The momentum is on the high side right now. Joe Wright getting a great push from Cheeseburger. And Joe is able to get clear. He drops down to the bottom in front of his brother and takes the lead. So Dave Wright, despite starting on the pole, he will not be able to lead that first lap. Instead, it's looking like it will be his brother. Now, Michael Lawrence. He is the leader of the high side, and he's got his teammate for the day, Brian Merle Jr., behind him. These two working very, very well together. They've got a great run on that outside, even through the corner. These two were former teammates at 2 pedals, 1 clutch before that team folded. And now they're working together tonight with Neon Racing. At the moment, drivers trying to find their teammates on track, trying to get hooked up with each other. I see all the Intensity drivers getting hooked up with each other. CCM is, Neon Racing is. All the teams are finding each other. We've got 3 distinct teams tonight. IDBC, you're going to see Dave Wright, David Hartney, Jeffrey Belk, and Josh Hall working with each other. We've got CCM, that's Eddie Morris and Joe Wright. They sometimes typically work with the Intensity DBC Racing drivers. And then we've got Neon Racing, Brian Merle Jr., Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence, Devin Buchno, and Joe Tardif. There we go, last time by, Joe Wright, your leader. He ran the fastest lap time of the race with a 50.87. We've got some moving and shaking on that outside lane. Looks like Joe Tardif will jump to the lead for the outside lane. He's now going to be getting a push from Cheeseburger. Oh, we see Devin Buchno also is going to go up there to that outside. He was the 4th car on the bottom lane. So, looks like, yep, that is the case. It's all Neon Racing on that high side. So those 4 Neon Racing cars trying to make it work up there. We'll see if anybody else jumps up with them, or everybody's going to stay loyal to their team and stick with their team. Only driver really separated from their team right now is Dave Wright, as he is currently in a CCM sandwich. He's got Joe Wright in front of him, Eddie Morris behind him. The closest teammate to him is Jeffrey Belk, who is the car behind Eddie. Oh, Joe Wright goes to the outside to block the run that Devin Bucciano has, but he is not able to get clear over Devin, and we are 3 wide. Joe Wright in no man's land in that middle lane. Looks like both lanes are able to get ahead of him. Devin Bucciano will jump down to the middle in front of Joe. As I say that, he jumps back to that 3rd lane in front of his teammate Joe Tardif. The 2 lanes leaving Joe out to dry. He's going to try to find a place to get into. He may just have to fall to the back of the pack. That is unfortunate for Joe, who was running in the lead. He jumped out to the outside to block Devin Bucciano. And unfortunately, he was not able to get clear. Goes down to the bottom to avoid causing an incident. And there we see he's fallen way back. So this will give the lead now to Eddie Morris. Morris getting a push, or giving a push to Dave. These 2 formerly teammates at Intensity Racing Team before that team folded. Eddie going to CCM. Dave going to Intensity DBC Racing. Looks like the field is getting tucked in. Single file. As I say that, there goes Joe Wright to that outside lane. Trying to make it work up there. Devin Bucciano says, hey, I'll join you. He goes up to that outside lane in front of Joe Wright. They're trying to form something up. But at the moment, that momentum is on that bottom lane. Looks like everything has kind of calmed down after the initial 5 laps. Drivers have kind of found their teammates. They found drivers to work with. This is a long race tonight. 77 laps. A lot can happen. And oh, as I say that, Eddie Morris jumps to the outside lane in front of Devin Bucciano. And they are actually going to go to a 3rd lane. Joe Wright once again stuck in the middle. Is anybody going to go down there and help him? Looks like Devin Bucciano does. So we've got 3 distinct lanes. The middle, Devin Bucciano, Joe Wright. And then that far outside up against the wall, that's Eddie Morris and Brian Merle Jr. Looks like those guys are able to get clear. Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence just ran the fastest lap time of the race, 50.54. Cheeseburger currently running in that 8th place position. Hoping to use that momentum and work his way up through the field. There we go. The outside really forming up right now. They've got some big momentum. Joe Wright, Devin Bucciano working together. And Joe Wright has got the nose over his brother as they head through turns 1 and 2. Devin Bucciano giving Joe a good push. Devin Bucciano, he has not won a super speedway race here in the SCSRA Xfinity Series. And we see what makes him very good at these super speedways, though, is he's able to push Joe Wright to the lead. Devin Bucciano, he is a phenomenal pusher at these super speedway races, and he did a great job helping Joe Wright to that lead. Joe Wright drops down in front of his brother and takes back the lead where he ran for the first little bit of this race. So now Devin Bucciano leads the outside lane, and he's got a big run. He's getting a push from his teammate Joe Tardif, and he is able to get clear over Joe Wright. Bucciano drops to the bottom and takes the lead. Now Joe Tardif, he leads the outside lane. He's got Brian Merle Jr. behind him. So teammate, and then behind them, that's Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence, all drivers with Neon Racing. And that outside, they've got a really good run right now. Trying to keep it up here. And we've got drivers dropping off and pitting already at lap number 9. It looks like that is, yeah, wow. So that is all of Intensity DBC and Eddie Morris. They are all dropping down on pit road. Let's see what these guys are going to be doing. Interesting strategy call. We'll watch Dave Wright as he heads onto pit road. And looks like it is a gas and go for all drivers, topping off on fuel. This strategy, looks like we've already got differing strategies here tonight. This is going to be fun to see how these strategies progress throughout the race. That decision right there could make or break the drivers involved races. We got another CCM driver, Joe Wright, coming in the lap after his teammate Eddie Morris came in. I assume it's going to be the same thing for Joe. A splash of fuel. And that just leaves a pack of Neon Racing drivers. Joe Tardif stuck on the outside. He's side by side with Brian Merle Jr. And looks like he's going to try to tuck in line behind his teammate. Yes, he will. Tardif tucks in line behind his teammate Brian Merle Jr. So looks like in this pack goes Brian Merle Jr., Joe Tardif, Devin Bucciano, and Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence. Neon Racing, the only team left that needs to come into the pits. Everybody else is good on fuel. So very early on, we're seeing strategy begin to come into play. With 10 cars, we may not see the mini wrecks that you see at super speedway races. We could have 1 or 2 wrecks, but I don't think wrecks will be as common as they normally are just with the small field that we have. So strategy could be what's going to make or break a driver or a team's race. And right now we've got 2 different strategies between CCM and IDBC, and then with Neon Racing. And there we go. We've got all of Neon Racing coming in, this time by the drivers, the final drivers that need to make a green flag pit stop. Coming in and topping off on fuel. The question is, can they make it on and off pit road and stay on the lead lap? And stay in the lead, sorry. I think they're going to be able to. And it's going to help because there's 4 of them. They can stay in a draft together. Uh-oh. Maybe I spoke too soon. Here comes the pack of Intensity DBC. And, yep, looks like they're going to be passing by all of these Neon Racing drivers right as they begin to get grouped up. They're going to be able to fly right by them on that outside lane. And looks like they drop to the bottom except for Eddie Morris. Eddie Morris, he is going to stay on that outside lane. Will anybody, and he's going to tuck in line behind his teammate Joe Wright. So pretty much for the first time in tonight's event, we've got teammates all lined up. Oh, with the exception of Josh Hall, sorry. Josh Hall running all by himself. He is away from the pack. I'm not sure what happened that got him so far behind. So there you go. There's this front group here. Dave Wright, David Hartney, Jeffrey Belk, Joe Wright, and Eddie Morris. But here comes a second pack reeling them in. Brian Merle Jr., Devin Bucciano, teammates with Neon Racing. Let's see what they're going to try to do. And then we've got another pack, Joe Tardif and Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence trying to reel in the leaders. Looks like we've got single file racing at the moment. Drivers just tucking in line. I think these drivers may be content on kind of running single file until that stage break. So they can just save their cars until the end, not have to use a fast repair. It's been a clean race so far. Speaking of stage break, the stage break will be at lap number 30. So the caution will come out. This will give the drivers an opportunity to come in, top off on fuel, maybe take some tires, and then the field will get bunched back up. And then when I was going through the packs, again, like I mentioned, Josh Hall, he is just running all by himself. He's about 16 seconds behind 9th place. Which is about 20 seconds behind the leader. So, Josh Hall really hoping for a caution so he can get bunched back up with the field. So at the moment, Dave Wright leads. He's got great drafting help from his IDBC Racing teammates. Oh, we've got some drivers breaking to the outside lane. Joe Wright, Eddie Morris, Brian Merle Jr., and looks like Devin Butchino. They are all going up to that outside lane, and they have more cars than the bottom lane. They've got a ton of momentum. Here comes Joe. And as they cross the start-finish line, Joe has the nose over his brother. He's getting a great push from his teammate. We'll say this, last time by, Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence landed the fastest lap time of the race, 50.34. Looks like him and Tardif have caught that draft. So a big run for Joe on the outside lane. He is almost clear. He can almost jump to the bottom. Not quite yet. Yep, I think he can now. Oh, maybe spoke too soon. Through the corner, the momentum goes back to the bottom lane. I think just because that is the shortest way around the track, but Joe Wright going to try to... Oh, as I say that, his drafting partner, Eddie Morris, jumps up to that third lane. And that will leave Joe Wright getting a push now from Brian Merle Jr. And looks like, there you go, Joe Tardif, Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence, they have all caught the field. So at the moment, strength in numbers goes to that outside lane. They've got a good run heading through turns 3 and 4. We don't have teammates working with each other on that outside lane. Brian Merle Jr. is with Neon Racing. Joe is with CCM, but both of them are great super speedway racers. We've got our first driver to break into the 49 seconds. That is Joe Tardif in the one. He ran a 49.96. He's got a great run, hoping to give some needed momentum to that outside lane. Despite having the less amount of cars, that bottom lane is running strong. Dave Wright with a nice run. He's getting a good push from the other Dave on the team, Dave Hartney. So right now, the two lanes kind of in a stalemate. Joe Wright, Dave Wright. Oh, we see the Neon Racing drivers jump to a third lane, leaving Joe Wright out to dry. Will anybody help him? Looks like Eddie Morris goes to that middle lane to help pick Joe up. But that's all of Neon Racing going to that third lane. Brian Merle Jr. leads the train. He's got Devin Butchino, his teammate, behind him. And they've got a good run here. Big momentum for that third lane. But watch out. Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, they've got a nice run in the middle despite having only two cars. They've actually got the run over the top lane, and now Joe Wright has the nose over that bottom lane. Really great run for those drivers in the middle. I know CCM kind of is at a disadvantage. They only have 2 drivers compared to Neon Racing and IDBC Racing, who have 4 drivers. So they're just trying to utilize everybody else on track and really try to work well amongst themselves. And we're seeing that there, despite having the least amount of cars among the outside and the bottom. They're doing pretty well. We see they're falling behind a little bit, though. Dave Wright in the bottom lane back with the momentum. Then it's Joe Wright in the middle, and then Brian Merle Jr. on the outside lane. Good run for Joe Wright on the front stretch as we head into 1 and 2. But typically the outside lane isn't quite as fast through the corners. So you got to really try to build up a big run on the front stretch. So really tight racing between 3 wide racing, between 3 different lanes. But it's really good, clean racing. Oh, there we go. Joe Wright able to get to that bottom lane. So now Eddie Morris, he leads the outside. He's getting a push from Brian Merle Jr., but I don't know how long that is going to last. I think we may see the Neon Racing drivers go to the outside of Eddie so that they can just be grouped up with each other. So right now, brothers working with each other on that bottom lane. Joe Wright, Dave Wright. As I say, that big run on the outside for Eddie Morris. He's almost clear over his teammate. And can he get down to the bottom? Not quite. Looks like the run fizzles out right before he can make the move down to the bottom. Looks like your leaders are coming up on lap traffic. That's Josh Hall. Josh Hall going to hug against that outside wall, let the leaders go beneath him. And I think he's going to try to hook up with his IDBC teammates and help them out despite being down a lap. So another good run for Eddie Morris on that outside lane. Getting a good push from Brian Merle Jr. And he is able to drop down in front of Joe Wright to take the lead. CCM grouped up with each other once again. And it's just a train of Neon Racing drivers on that outside. Brian Merle Jr., Devin Bucciano, and then Joe Tardif, Cheeseburger, all working with each other on that outside lane. Then we see Josh Hall trying to catch the draft and get up there to his teammates to help them out. Yes, Josh Hall is a lap down. He cannot compete for the win at the moment, but he can still give help to his teammates. I want to talk a little bit about the track that we are racing at tonight. Talladega Superspeedway lives up to its name of all the closed-circuit motorsports facilities in the world where sanctioned NASCAR auto races are held. It is the fastest. Constructed by the France Family's International Speedway Corporation 10 years after Daytona International Speedway, Talladega was built slightly longer at 2.66 miles and with steeper 33-degree banking, which guaranteed record-setting speeds. The pole speed for NASCAR's first race in 1969 was a stunning 199.466 miles per hour, almost 30 miles per hour faster than the Indy cars were lapping at Indianapolis Motor Speedway at the time. In 1975, Mark Donohue set the world closed course speed record by driving a Porsche 91730 around Talladega at 221.160 miles per hour. Donohue's world record stood for 4 years before finally being broken at Talladega's Italy's 7.5 mile Nardo high-speed test facility. Rule changes in 1987 mean Bill Elliott's 212.809 miles per hour lap will likely stand forever as the qualifying record at Talladega and for NASCAR. Talladega Superspeedway is still the fastest track on the schedule and holds the record for the fastest 500-mile stock car race at 188.354 miles per hour. Mark Martin's winning speed in May 1997 and produces exciting fender-to-fender racing every year. Talladega holds the record for most leaders in a 500-mile race, and most lead changes as well, but on the last lap, don't ever bet against a driver named Earnhardt. Dale Sr. racked up an amazing 10 NASCAR Cup Series race victories, and Dale Jr. captured 4 straight wins during the 2002-2003 seasons. Talladega Superspeedway hosts a variety of stock car racing events every year, and competing in high-speed packs at Talladega has proven to be challenging and exciting for iRacers as well. Talladega, phenomenal racetrack. Coming up very, very soon in NASCAR next month. So it's always cool when NASCAR and when the SCSRA Xfinity Series comes to Talladega, always produces great white-knuckle super speedway racing, makes for some very memorable finishes. We saw Joe Wright. He jumped to the outside lane in front of Brian Merle Jr. So Joe trying to jump in front of his teammate Eddie before the stage break. Again, the stage break will be at lap number 30. Top 10 will all get stage points, so the entire field will get stage points. Oh, looks like Neon Racing goes to the outside of Joe Wright, leaving him out to dry. And will anybody go and help out Joe? I don't know. Looks like that third lane is Neon Racing once again. Eddie Morris leads the bottom, drafting with Dave Wright, and there we go. David Hartney goes to that middle lane to help out Joe Wright. As I say that, he leaves. Oh, we're 4 wide, heading into 1 and 2. Belk on the bottom, Joe Wright in the middle. Oh, looks like David Hartney thinks better of it. He drops out, making it 3 wide once again. That was very, very sketchy. Could have resulted in an incident. Luckily, these drivers kept it clean. Really tight racing. Dave Wright goes to that middle lane. Belk follows behind him. They've got a good run on the bottom. And it looks like Wright is able to get clear over Eddie Morris. Him and Belk drop to that bottom lane. Joe Wright now the leader of the middle. Brian Merle Jr. leads that outside lane. Eddie Morris goes up to help Joe Wright. They are coming to that start-finish line. Wright goes to the middle lane in front of his teammate, Joe Wright. 4 wide, Eddie Morris. Brian Merle Jr., Dave Wright side by side to the line, and looks like Brian Merle Jr. will take the stage win here. And a photo finish between Brian Merle Jr., between Dave Wright. Brian Merle Jr. will take that stage win. He will get the 10 stage points. And I know he's definitely wanting that, considering Brian Merle Jr. is below that cutoff line. So 10 stage points for Brian Merle Jr. The rest of your top 10, Dave Wright, Jeffrey Belk, Devin Bucciano, Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, David Hartney, Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence, and Josh Hall. Fantastic finish to the stage there. And hopefully that's a preview of what's to come in this race when that white flag waves. Lap number 77. I know Josh Hall really happy to see this stage break. This will give him an opportunity to get back onto that lead lap. He is the only driver down a lap. And we've got green flag pit stops coming up here. Wow. I mean, I can't believe the racing that we just saw was for the stage. Again, hopefully that is a sign to what's to come, what's going to happen when that white flag waves on lap number 77. Thank you so much for all who have tuned in so far tonight. Make sure to hit that share button. Like, follow, and subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. Help support us, the league, the drivers, and the sponsors. All right, there we go. The whole field going to be coming in, except for Josh Hall, who's going to go around the field and get his lap back. He'll probably come into the pits next time by. Dave Wright, he's got that advantage. He has the first pit stall. Whoever wins the race off of pit road, they will be in the lead coming to that next restart. It looks like tires being taken, fuel and tires for these drivers. Devin Butchino, the first driver out of his stall, and he will win the race off of pit road. Then it's Dave Wright, Brian Merle Jr., Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, David Hartney, Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence, Jeffrey Belk. We've got Joe Tardif. He leaves the pits, and then we'll have Josh Hall coming in, getting tires and fuel as well. So we saw Devin Butchino through David Hartney getting tires and fuel, Jeffrey Belk and Joe Tardif getting tires, fuel, and some damage fixed. And then Josh Hall, he will be coming in this time by to go ahead and get some tires, fuel, and maybe some damage fixed as well. He was very far behind from the field. I don't know if he maybe got some damage during our green flag run that we had. I'm not sure. There we go. Josh Hall going by the pace car there. So again, Devin Butchino, he will win the race off of pit road. And it worked out perfectly because the driver in third, Brian Merle Jr., that's his teammate, he will be starting right behind him. So teammates going to be working together on this restart. So that means that Devin Butchino definitely going to choose that bottom lane. Oh, looks like we've got 3 drivers heading on to pit road. Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, and Joe Tardif. Let's see what these guys are going to do here. We'll watch Eddie Morris. And looks like it is a gas and go for all 3 drivers. Topping off on fuel, trying to last as long as they can on fuel. There's Josh Hall into the pits now. He's going to be coming in, taking some tires, taking some fuel. You might be wondering, this is a super speedway race. I mean, you don't really need tires, do you? You definitely need tires because after a little bit, as those tires wear, the car can get really, really tight and or really, really loose. And it can really hurt you as you're trying to drive the car. And it can really hurt the drivers around you as they're either trying to push you or you're trying to push them. Makes everything really difficult. So you're definitely going to want to try to take tires at least once. So here we go. We've got all 10 drivers on the lead lap. Everybody still with a chance to win. This race is not over yet. We haven't even crossed the halfway point yet. So we are going to continue to see how this race unfolds. So far, strategy has been a big part of this race. And it may continue to play a big factor all the way until that checkered flag. Excited to talk to some of the drivers in the post-race interviews about their strategy decisions that they had. There we go. Pace car is in. And look at that. We've got two groups of teammates starting behind each other. The bottom three cars. Davin Bucciano, Brian Earl Jr., Cheeseburger, all with Neon Racing. And then the top three cars, Dave Wright, David Hartney, and Jeffrey Belk. They're all with IDBC Racing. We've got Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, right by each other. Green flag is back out here at Talladega. The race is back underway. There's Devin Bucciano up through the gears. He's got his teammate, Brian Earl Jr., behind him, the bottom lane, with a great run into turns 1 and 2. The IDBC teammates on that outside lane trying to build up a good run here. And there we go on the backstretch. Good run for Dave Wright, getting a good push from his teammate, David Hartney. But still, the momentum belongs to that bottom lane. At the moment, both lanes are equal with 3 cars apiece. The rest of the field trying to catch up. Another good run on the outside lane for Dave Wright and David Hartney. And they've got the nose over Devin Bucciano heading into turns 1 and 2. But we see that momentum will go back down to the bottom lane. As we've seen, typically that bottom lane is going to have more momentum than the top through those corners just because they can take advantage of the fact that it's the shortest way around the track. It doesn't mean as much on the straightaways just because it's a straight line, you're not turning. And there we go. Looks like Dave Wright is able to build up a big run on that backstretch, and he gets down in front of Devin Bucciano, taking the lead. We've got 3 lanes now. The middle lane, looks like the middle lane is actually going to go up in front of that third lane. So we've got 2 lanes here. David Hartney, Jeffrey Belk working with each other. Teammates with IDBC. And they've actually got a good run. And both, it looks like Hartney at least is able to get clear over Dave Wright. He can drop down to the bottom. But looks like that chance has run out. The run is back down to that bottom lane. Let's see if he can build up another good run on that outside here on the backstretch. There we go. He's clear. And both Dave and Jeffrey Belk can go down to that bottom lane in front of their teammate. 1, 2, 3 on that bottom lane is all Intensity DBC drivers. There's only 2 cars running on the outside lane at the moment. And that's 2 drivers who are very used to working with each other. Joe Wright, Josh Hall, they were teammates with each other for a very long time in the F&D Superspeedway series. And they've got a great run on that outside lane despite only having 2 cars. There's 2 drivers that can make a 2-car tandem work in modern-day NASCAR. That's Joe and Josh. And at the moment here, we have officially hit the halfway point. I am going to turn up the volume and pump up the intensity here. You will get to see the sights and hear the sounds of the racetrack. Here we go. that will do it for Pump Up the Intensity. Hopefully you enjoyed us turning up the volume. We set our sights now back to the racing action. We still have two distinct lines going strong. We've got that bottom lane, teammates working with each other. David Hartney, Jeffrey Belk, Dave Wright. And then on that outside lane, we also have teammates working with each other, both CCM drivers, Eddie Morris and Joe Wright. And then we have a driver who likes to work with the CCM drivers sometimes. That's Josh Hall. Now I'm going to do a little playoff driver roundup so you can see exactly where all of our playoff drivers are tonight. First of all, Brian Nudie. He is not here in tonight's event, so that could definitely hurt him in the point standings. He may drop below the cutoff line here. Jeffrey Belk, he is second in the playoffs. He currently runs in the third place position. He is that second car on the bottom lane. Third is Austin Blaylock. He is not in tonight's event. That'll definitely hurt him in the point standings. And fourth, that is Devin Butchino. He currently runs sixth, currently running on that bottom lane. Seventh in points, that is Brian Merle Jr. He currently runs in the eighth place position, running on that bottom lane. And then rounding out your top eight, your final playoff driver, that is Dave Wright. He's currently running on that bottom lane. So right now, oops, I actually forgot to mention again, Eddie Morris, he's in sixth on the outside. Joe Wright, third. He leads that outside lane. So there you go. That's where all of your playoff drivers are. The rest of the field are non-playoff drivers. David Hartney, he currently runs in first. Josh Hall runs in third. Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence runs in ninth. Joe Tardif runs in 10th. So it looks like it's 6 playoff drivers, 4 non-playoff drivers in the field tonight. And again, 2 of our playoff drivers are missing, Austin Blaylock and Brian Nudie. So right now, that bottom lane, looks like Joe Wright will drop to the bottom lane, leaving Eddie Morris now as the leader of the outside lane. He's got Josh Hall looking to pick him up. The field almost single file right now. I believe these drivers are going to have to pit one more time. So teams trying to coordinate when will that time be. I don't know. They may need to come in 2 more times. We shall see. Strategy really going to come into play here. A good strategy or a bad strategy can win or lose the race for you. But at the moment, David Hartney, he leads the field. Wow, Josh Hall, Eddie Morris, they're trying to build up a good run on that outside lane. Despite those two not being teammates, they have been teammates in the past. Both of them ran with Intensity Racing Team. They work really well together. And looks like as I say that, Josh Hall, he drops down to the bottom, getting grouped up with his teammates, and Joe Wright is going to go to the outside to draft with his teammate Eddie Morris. So they're going to work with each other right now. So this is truly the first time in tonight's event where all teams are grouped up with each other. Joe Wright and Eddie Morris, despite only having 2 cars up there, they're trying to make it work on that outside lane. But typically the lane with more cars is going to be the faster one. Strength in numbers here at these super speedways. And right now the bottom lane definitely has the numbers. That could change, though, if we have anybody jump up to that outside lane. We'll see if anybody chooses to do so. Ooh, we see a little bit of moving going on there on that bottom lane. And with that with drivers moving up and down, the draft kind of being lost for a second there, that's going to give some momentum to that outside lane. Here comes Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, big run up there. Eddie Morris, he's got the nose over that bottom lane. That high side has a ton of momentum. Those 2 on the bottom. Trying to hang on, though. All right, looks like you're outside 2, trying to build up another good run heading into turns 1 and 2. But typically that bottom lane has more momentum through the corners. Another big run there for Eddie Morris. Joe Wright, as I say that, Joe Wright, oh, I thought he was going to go to the outside of his teammate there. Looks like he was maybe just jumping up there to get the car cool. As I say that, there we go. Joe Wright goes underneath Eddie Morris, leaving him out to dry. I don't think he was leaving him out to dry. I just think Joe, when he was pushing Eddie, he was just getting really hot. So him and Eddie swap positions, and that'll be something to discuss really quick. So we've got Jeffrey Belk. Let's take a look at him. We'll look at his cockpit cam while we're kind of explaining this. So he's right on David Hartney's back bumper. And so he's giving him a really good push. David Hartney's fine. He's not overheating. But for Jeffrey Belk, his temperature is going to be a lot higher than David Hartney's. And the reason why is because the fact that he has a car in front of him, it is restricting the airflow a little bit that he would be getting if he was the lead car. So before too long, it's typically at around about 2:30. The red lights begin to flash, and then I think at about 300, the engine will explode. And you do not want a blown engine here. So drivers got to be very careful maintaining a good temperature so that they don't overheat. So you'll see every so often maybe drivers peak high so they can, and there we go. David Hartney actually went high a little bit to maybe give some air to Jeffrey Belk. It's just all about trying to find that air. It looks like the entire field is single file at the moment. Looks like everybody... Oh, we've actually got some green flag pit stops going on here. The entire field coming into the pits. There's not a driver that stayed out here. So whoever wins the race off of pit road, they will be in the leader. David Hartney with the advantage, having that first pit stall. He is right by that finish line. And looks like it is a gas and go for David Hartney, for Devin Butchino, for Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence. There we go. So David Hartney will win the race off of pit road. He will lead the field onto the backstretch. All drivers, it was just a gas and go, or We did see Jeffrey Belt take right side tires only. Josh Hall, he is staying on pit road for an extended period of time. This is not what he wants. There we go. He's leaving the pits. Looks like he had a lot of damage he needed to get fixed. So David Hartney, a big gap between him and the rest of the field. But that may be a curse, as it'll give the rest of the field an opportunity to build up a big run while he doesn't have anybody behind him. Yep, and there we go. Devin Bucciano and his teammate Michael Lawrence, they jump up to that outside lane. Devin Bucciano, he is clear over David Hartney, and he drops to the bottom, taking the lead. Now Cheeseburger, he leads that outside lane. He's got Joe right behind him. 25 laps to go here at Talladega. And Cheeseburger, Joe, they've got a big run on that outside lane. Lawrence almost clear. But we see the momentum going back down to that bottom lane. So right now we've got a IDBC driver and a Neon Racing driver working together. And then up top, it is a Neon Racing driver and a CCM driver working together. Those pit stops got the drivers all split up, so drivers trying to work their way back to their teammates so they can get grouped up. Looks like David Hartney, he's going to jump to that middle lane, and looks like a third lane is forming. Saw Dave Wright a little bit squirrely up there. He's trying to give a good push to his brother, Joe. Cheeseburger tucks in line on that bottom lane, leaving Hartney out to dry. He's going to have to find a place to tuck in, or somebody's going to have to go up there and help him out. He's either going to go to the bottom or the top here. Looks like Joe and Dave go down to that middle lane to help Hartney out. But looks like Dave was not quite clear over Hartney, so Hartney's going to tuck in line on that bottom lane, and it's just going to leave Joe, Dave, and Eddie on that middle lane. Your leaders coming up on lap traffic, that is Josh Hall. So Josh Hall looking to go, he's about to go a lap down once again. I think we're going to see him try to tuck in with some of his IDBC teammates. He'll be hoping for a caution to come out so he can get his lap back. So at this point of the race, here are my ones to watch tonight. I mean, starting off, we got your leader, Devin Bucciano. Bucciano has been fast all race long. He's been doing a great job working with his teammates at Neon Racing. And, I mean, Neon Racing's got strength in numbers for drivers, so with the help of his teammates and the speed that he's shown all race long, and he's got phenomenal racecraft here at these super speedways, I think Devin Bucciano has potential to grab his first ever super speedway victory and his first oval race victory of the season. Joe Wright, who we see has a monster run on that outside lane. He certainly knows how to get it done here at Talladega. He won here back in Season 1. One of the best super speedway racers in the field tonight. He could drive this track blindfolded. He's got a lot of super speedway racing under his belt. I mean, he's been driving super speedways since iRacing started, so definitely watch out for him. He may not be in the lead at the moment. He leads the outside lane, and he's going to be there in the end. And then lastly, my dark horse pick, Michael Cheeseburger Lawrence. He won last season here at Talladega. He has not really been running up front a lot, but he's kind of the closer here at these super speedway races. I mean, he's always there in the end, so watch out for Cheeseburger to make a hard charge to the lead with the last two or with one lap to go. And looks like Joe Wright with a big run on the outside. He is able to get clear over Devin Buccineau. So now Dave Wright, he leads the outside lane. He's getting a good push from Eddie Morris there. These two aren't teammates, but they're known for working with each other sometimes. At the moment, that outside lane has more cars. Actually, no. With Brian Merle Jr. dropping down to the bottom, each lane has an equal amount of cars. Currently, the momentum is on that bottom lane. Make sure to go check out our web store, IntensityBroadcasting.com. We features merchandise from your favorite broadcaster, your favorite drivers, and all of your favorite leagues, and so much more. We've got all of our Intensity Broadcasting merchandise on there. We've got a bunch of Atlee Weiss merchandise, Atlee Weiss Racing merchandise. You can come go support my real-life racing endeavors. Atlee Weiss Racing actually dropped a bunch of new merch yesterday. So go pick up some and rock some of our new merch. We've got a bunch of cool auto racing novelty items. We got our driver collections, Carson Hayslip, Raven Kimball, Phoenix Kimball, a bunch of up-and-coming legend drivers that you definitely want to support. We got our lifestyle collections, our team collections, and then, of course, our league collections. Especially make sure to visit the SCSRA section of the league collections and pick up a SCSRA t-shirt. Comes in 5 different colors: black, navy, red, sport gray, and white, in sizes small to 5XL. Got so many great items on Intensity Broadcasting. Go make sure to check it out. Go pick up some merchandise. Link is in the description. There we go. We got some movers and shakers. Joe Wright will jump to that outside lane in front of his brother. We've got Jeffrey Belk leading the bottom lane, and as I say that, Joe Wright's got a nice run on the outside lane, and he will drop back down to the bottom, taking the lead. Now Dave Wright, he leads the outside lane. He's getting a good push from Hartney. So Intensity DBC drivers working with each other on that outside lane, trying to build up a good run. They've got a good run heading into turns 1 and 2 here. Watch out for that outside lane. But at the moment, the momentum is really on that bottom lane. Jeffrey Belk giving Joe Wright a good push here. I know they're not teammates, but IDBC and CCM kind of have an alliance just because there's a lot of former Intensity drivers, Intensity Racing drivers. So Jeffrey, Joe, I think they're going to work very well together on that bottom lane, but it's going to be hard to beat Hartney Wright on that outside lane. Two drivers that are used to drafting with each other, used to pushing each other. I know those two worked with each other last night. This SCSRA Truck Series was at Talladega last night. So, Joe Tardif, he won that that Truck Series race last night. Joe currently runs in that 9th place position. He can still win the race. Unless a caution comes out at the moment, we'll only have one driver that's out of contention, and that is Josh Hall. Right now, that outside lane, 15 laps to go here, trying to build up a good run on Joe Wright. And for Joe Wright, Dave Wright, and the rest of the playoff drivers, a win would mean so much. Because a win locks you in to the next round. And it'll especially mean a lot for drivers like Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, Brian Merle Jr., and Dave Wright, drivers that are below the cutoff line heading into tonight's event. We saw heading into 1 and 2, Wright, Dave, at the moment, he had the nose over his brother Joe. He's going to try to build up a good run on the backstretch here. Getting a push from his teammate Hartney. And Dave Wright, he has the nose over Joe heading into 3 and 4. But the momentum will go back down to the bottom. There we go. Hartney giving Wright a good push. Dave will lead that lap. He's almost clear over Joe, heading into 1 and 2. But the momentum goes right back down to the bottom to Joe Wright. But I think if they can get a good enough run on the backstretch here, Dave Wright can get down to the bottom and take that lead. Both lanes pretty much in a stalemate as we head through turns 3 and 4. The momentum going down to the bottom. Once again, another good run on the front stretch, that outside lane with Wright and Hartney. They've got great straightaway speed. Wright thought about going down, but he wasn't quite clear. So he jumps back up to the outside and is going to try to build up another run. Looks like David Hartney peeking down, maybe trying to get some air to that car. Might be overheating a little bit. Key at these super speedway races, you just got to be there at the right time, right place. The winner will not be determined until that final lap. Oh, we saw some contact, Hartney and Morris. Luckily, nobody went around. Looks like Eddie is actually blinking a little bit. So that may be kind of distracting or for the drivers around him, and it may be hard to race because you don't know where they are. It's going to be hard to push Eddie if you can't see where he is. Dave Hartney continuing to try to build up a good run on that outside. Looks like that bottom lane, they've got strength in numbers at the moment because Josh Hall is kind of dropping back away from the field. Ten laps to go now. 40 more corners, and there we go. Dave Wright had a good enough run on that outside lane. He's able to drop down to the bottom in front of his brother, Joe Wright. Now David Hartney, he leads the outside lane. He's got Eddie Morris behind him. We see Brian Merle Jr. jumps up to that outside lane there. At the moment, that bottom has a ton of momentum. 10 laps to go. I mean, it is go time. If you have been holding back, if you have been conservative, now is the time to stop and start working your way up through the front. Because you can't win the race if you're not there in the end. Big run on the outside. Hartney, Morris. Hartney is able to get clear over his teammate, Dave Wright. He is going to drop down to that bottom lane. Now Eddie Morris leads the outside lane. He's getting a push from Neon Racing driver Joe Tardif. Now Eddie Morris with a good run on the middle. And, oh, we got a third lane forming. Tardif Jr., they jump to the outside lane. We are 3 wide here at Talladega. 9 laps to go. Looks like the momentum is on that bottom lane at the moment. Hartney, Wright, Belk, all three teammates working with each other. And then looks like it's the two teammates of Eddie Morris, Joe Wright. They've got the run in that middle lane. And actually, Joe Wright, Eddie Morris, they've got a good run heading into 1 and 2 here. Devin Butchino giving them a push as well. 3 cars on that middle lane now. Brian Merle Jr. goes down to the middle to help out. Or so I thought. Tardif trying to make that third lane work, but he just doesn't have anybody up there to help him. So he's going to tuck in line behind Devin Butchino. Right now, looks like that middle lane, or that top lane, it's got strength in numbers. They can build up a big run on this front stretch. Eddie Morris can get to the lead here. So looks like Hartney trying to keep it. IDBC in the lead on that bottom lane. But Joe, Eddie, they've got a nice run on the outside. They could potentially take the lead here if they can build up a big enough run on the front stretch. There we go. Strong run for Eddie and Joe. Heading into 1 and 2. Eddie, he is clear over David Hartney. Ooh, the chance ran out right before he could drop down. So Eddie just got to try to build up another run. I think he can do it. That top side has a lot of strength right now. Austin Blaylock on YouTube says, let's go CCM. Right now, both CCM drivers, Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, lead that outside lane, trying to get to the lead here. The field coming to 5 laps to go. Eddie, Joe, big run. Eddie's almost clear as they cross the start-finish line. As they head into 1 and 2, though, the momentum goes back down to the bottom lane. Hartney, Wright, Belk, all with IDBC. Oh, we saw Eddie Morris. He blinked there. That could affect some things. Joe, it might make for Joe. It might make pushing Eddie a very hard time as he can't really see where Eddie is. Blaylock says, gotta shout out my team. Absolutely. We miss having you, Blaylock, tonight. Sorry you couldn't sweep all the super speedway races this season. Austin Blaylock won at Daytona and Atlanta. Eddie or Joe? Yeah. I don't know. Looks like Joe at the moment is content on pushing Eddie. They might have decided that who's going to be pushing who to the win, and it looks like right now, with the way they're positioned, Joe might be content on just pushing Eddie there to the win. We'll see, though. That top lane really has slowed down. Looks like we have the third lane starting to build up. Neon Racing, Butchino, Merle Jr., Cheeseburger trying to make something work. Blaylock says, hate that I missed it, man. We'll be back next week. Yeah, we miss having you here in the field tonight, but glad you'll be back next week to try to break into the Final Four. Eddie Morris really blinking bad. Big run on that third lane for Neon Racing. Buccino, Jr., Cheeseburger. At the moment, that momentum is still on that for that bottom lane. We're 3 wide now. The moves that are going to be made here in these final 2 laps are going to determine who wins and loses this race. All 3 lanes pretty much equal as we head into turns 1 and 2. Morris with a little bit of a nose. He's getting a good push from his teammate, Joe Wright, trying to push Eddie to his first ever SCSRA Xfinity Series Super Speedway win, and maybe, I think it might be his first ever career win. Here we go. Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, they've got a good run heading into 3 and 4 here. The field coming to the white flag as they head onto the front stretch. Going through the short chute. That bottom lane still has the momentum. But this race is not over yet. White flag is in the air. Eddie Morris, Joe Wright, trying to make one last little push to get to the lead. Can they do it? Eddie Morris. Joe pushing Eddie Morris like this is the Daytona 500. Can they get up there? I don't know. The third lane forms up again. Buccino leads that third lane. He's getting a push from Junior. Hartney continues to lead that bottom lane. He continues to have that lead. He leads the field onto the tri-oval. Wright sticking right on his back bumper. Eddie Morris, Joe Wright trying to make one last little push on the outside lane. Can Morris get to the lead? He's got the nose at the line, and Morris wins. Eddie Morris wins here at Talladega. Wow. In a last lap push, teammate Joe Wright pushing him to the win. Wow! First win of the season for Eddie. First career super speedway race. And let me confirm it very quickly. Yes, it is true. This is Eddie Morris's first career SCSRA Xfinity Series race. And he did it in style here tonight. There's your top 3 lining up on the front stretch. And I don't think Eddie Morris would have been able to win that race without the crazy push that he got from Joe Wright. There's the 2 teammates nose to nose, a little duo burnout to celebrate the success that CCM has had tonight. Despite having the smallest team out of the entire field, they were small but mighty tonight. Both drivers finishing in the top 3. Eddie Morris burning it down. And quickly, before we begin the driver interviews, I want to watch this final stretch here. So Eddie Morris on the high side, getting a push from Joe Wright. Hartney has got the lead. A car length separates him and Eddie. Or at least he's clear over Eddie. Not a car length, but he's clear over Eddie. Joe Wright pushing the heck out of his teammate, trying to get him to that lead. They've got a great run on that outside, going right side by side with that bottom lane, trying to utilize that side draft. It still looked like Hartney had the nose there. And then we see one last little shove from Joe. Gives Eddie just the right amount of momentum to get him the win. What a tight finish. Let me rewind that there. There we go. That is your finish right there. What a race. Let me go ahead and get the race results up. Eddie Morse won the race by 0.7 of a second. That is insane. All right, now time for the driver interview. Starting off, we're going to pull in your third place finisher, the driver that pushed Eddie Morse to the win. Man from Rochester, New York. That's Joe Wright. Hey, Joe, this is Atlee in the broadcast room. You got a copy?
I sure do that, man. If you don't like that racing, I don't know what to tell you.
That was an incredible finish right there. And we really saw right there how teamwork makes the dream work. You and Eddie, you were the smallest team out of the field tonight, only 2 cars in the CCM camp, but you showed that CCM was small and mighty tonight. You had a great run all race long. You're working together with Eddie, working together with your brother, and I saw you were behind Eddie, and I knew you were going to be content on trying to help push him to the win, help push him to his first career win. And on that last lap, I mean, you guys had a great run, and you're able to push Eddie to his first career win. I mean, what was going through your head those last few laps as you were just trying to get ahead of Hartney there to get the win?
Yeah, I thought we were in a good position. I knew D. Wright was going to try to get up, so I kept Eddie alongside him the best I could, so he couldn't get up in front of Eddie there. And then, going down the backstretch, I told Eddie, I'm with you all the way to the finish line, so wherever you go, I go. And he took me to the promised land, and I just shoved him with everything I had. And I think Dave probably messed up Hartney there. Dave didn't push him to the line. I think that's probably where Hartney lost that.
Yeah, so, I mean, that push to the win, you said you're able to stick right with Eddie. You said you're going to stick right to the win. So, I mean, how does it feel to have a win where, the team was really involved and it was all about the teamwork there?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do at Super Speedways, try to get with each other. I mean, every week, week in and week out, trying to work together to be the best we can be as a team. But shout out to CCM, shout out to Dev Sports Cards for putting on this, the whole thing. Thanks, Atman, for coming in here every week and calling these awesome races. I mean, that's probably one of the best super speedway races I've had in this league in a long time. And man, 4 and 5 wide coming to the the line or to the stage break even. I mean, it was just awesome racing all the way around. Everybody onto pit road during a green flag pit stop was pretty cool and wild too. So it was just great racing.
Absolutely. I'll have to agree with you there. That was one of the most insane super speedway finishes I've been able to call in my 2 years here with Intensity Broadcasting. So I know you mentioned a couple of things. Is there any other sponsors or shout-outs you'd like to thank?
Yeah, shout out to Butt Kicker for sponsoring us here at Intensity Broadcasting too. And man, I'll tell you what, that thing was rumbling all night tonight. Every time I got a push, I got a little bump in my backside. So it's been great times. Shout out to them, Intensity Broadcasting. Yeah, I think that's everybody. CCM, and shout out to my brother for keeping it together and not crashing the whole field for once.
Awesome. Well, again, congrats on the podium tonight, Joe. Have a great rest of your night.
You too, bud.
Thank you. All right, let's now pull in your second place finisher. Came just a little bit short. He came 7 thousandth of a second short. The man from Austin, Texas. Let's pull in David Hartney. Hey, Hartney, this is Atlee in the broadcast room. We got a copy.
Atlee, I got you. How you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good up here in the broadcasting booth. Got to witness an insane finish, and unfortunately, you were on the wrong end of that finish there. 7 thousandth of a second behind Eddie there. I mean, you were leading all the way to the tri-oval, but Eddie Morse on that outside lane, he was just able to get the best of you by just a little bit. He had a great car all race long. You were leading there for the last 10 laps. I mean, you had a really, really fast Ford all throughout tonight's event. So, I mean, what do you think you could have done differently to change the result of this race?
We came in second tonight. We had a great car tonight, the Dirtbag Clothing Ford Mustang here. So I'm not going to complain at all. If I'm going to lose to anybody, Eddie deserves it just as much. Joe was pushing him hard. D-Wright was pushing me hard. So to have 77 laps of just really clean, good racing between the entire group, I have no complaints at all. I wouldn't change it for the world.
So I know a lot of times first place, a sitting duck. I mean, do you think maybe if you went up to the outside and blocked, you could have kept it in the lead?
I mean, I possibly, but at the same time, I didn't want to cause the big one. I knew that if all four, the IDGBC team was on the bottom line, if we kept it there, I think we would have pulled it away 1-2 at least with D-Wright back there. But again, I'm not going to complain. Got to give it a shout out to my teammates, D-Wright, Jeffrey Belk, and Josh. Without them, we wouldn't be in second at all. We wouldn't be on the podium at all. So got to give a shout out to them.
Now, before we let you go, Hart, is there any sponsors or shout outs?
Oh, again, man, my team. This is awesome feeling to be up here 2 nights in a row. D-Wright, J Bell, Josh Hall. Glad you guys were all here tonight. My family, of course, let me do this. Dirtbag Clothing, W Energy. Again, you guys, Intensity Broadcasting, for making this happen every week as well. But yeah, man, great race. It was so much fun.
Awesome. Well, again, congrats on the runner-up finish tonight, Artney. Have a great rest of your night.
You too, Atlee.
Thank you. And now, let's pull in your first place finisher, grabbing his first career win his first career win here in the SCSRA Xfinity Series. First win of the season. He locks himself into the Final Four. Driver for CCM. He's the owner of Morris Customs from Sevierville, Tennessee. Let's pull in Eddie Morris. Eddie, this is Atlee in the broadcast room. You got a copy?
Hey, brother.
Well, you were not the fried piper tonight. You got your first career win, and in dramatic fashion, grabbing the win by 7/1000th of a second here at Talladega. I mean, it was looking like you were going to fall. It was coming into that last lap at Hartney. He had the gap between you, but Joe stuck with you all the way to that finish line, and he was able to push you to that win, and you're able to keep it straight and be able to take that push from Joe. So, I mean, just walk us through those last few laps and how you're able to park it in victory lane tonight.
Oh man, I knew if me and Joe got together, we were going to go some places, because that's usually what we do and how we do it at places like this. And he's a hell of a pusher. D-Wright's a hell of a pusher. Shout out to those guys. But man, I couldn't have done it without Joe for sure tonight. Those last few laps, he was managing his temps. The car kept getting super hot. It was weird. So you kept having to make sure they were breathing pretty good and getting it cooled back down. And so that was going on. You had to deal with that, and he was right there and didn't want to pull out and lose a spot or get disconnected from me. And man, he managed those temps really good, and the plan was to just stick in that middle line and do what we could, because like it was just him and me for our teammates out there for this race. And it's kind of hard, man. You got strength in numbers at a super speedway, and you get one team's got 3 or 4 and the other's got more. Of course they're going to go faster in the draft and they're going to work with each other. But we got her done, man. Like, wow, that last lap was nuts. I'll be honest. I seen Devin and those guys get that run on the high side, and that high side, man, was absolutely horrible tonight. Like, it was bad. Like, you could have 2 cars on that third lane and have 1 car in the inside, and it would just absolutely kill you. Like, it was just weird. But yeah, it was. So I knew we stay in that middle line, we're good. My only thing was beating Hartney to the line. I was hoping I could get more of a side draft, but I didn't want to have a crazy ending like last night's truck race was. Go down too far on somebody, and cause that one. So man, yeah, it was nuts. I thought for sure Hartney got me. Looked at the relative and it popped up. I had it. I was like, holy cow! Like, am I dreaming that, man? Like, what's up?
No, you were wide awake, my friend. I mean, you accomplished so much tonight. First career win ever in the SCSRA Xfinity Series. I know it's been a while trying to get that monkey off your back. Of course, you're locked into the Final Four. I mean, how much does it mean?
Oh man, it means a lot. You know, have to go into the Final Four and not have to worry about the stress of racing my way in to get there. Because man, I tell you what, the wild card race like this, anything could happen. You could have a big hole to jump back out of, or if you're already on the cut line like I am, it means a lot. So 3 other guys are going to have to shape up and get her done next week. So hopefully we can. Where we go next? We go to Nashville Superspeedway.
Nashville, yeah.
So yeah, hopefully we get Joe in there. That'd be great.
Now, before we let you go, Eddie, is there any sponsors or shout-outs you'd like to thank for your win?
Oh, for sure, man. Intensity Broadcasting, the best broadcasters in the business. Of course, Dev Sports Cards. Check them out online at eBay at Dev Sports Cards. I'm sure somebody, there's a holiday coming up. Was it Mother's Day, Father's Day? Something's around the corner. Heck, we got Easter, man. Stuff some of those Easter baskets with some of those sports cards and stuff he's got over there. He's got a lot of good ones, a lot of collectibles. So just really check him out. Morris Customs for this awesome paint that I rock every week. Everybody that allows me to do this. I got a shout out to my teammates, especially Joe Wright tonight, man. Like I said earlier, it wouldn't have been possible without him. If he wasn't there, I definitely wasn't winning. He told me after the race, he's like, "Man, you owe me a couple now." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I owe you. I owe D, right? Like, I know." But yeah, it's just shout out to them and you guys up in the booth, man.
And also, Austin Blaylock wanted me to give you a message in the chat. He says, I'm super stoked for him. Super, super happy right now. So Austin Blaylock wants to wish you congratulations.
Appreciate it, Blaylock. Yeah, he's another teammate. Him and Brian Nudie. So yeah, man, shout out to those guys and appreciate it, Blaylock.
All right. Well, again, congrats on your first career win tonight. You won't have to stress next week at Nashville. Locked into the Final Four. Have a great rest of your night, Eddie.
Hey, thanks. You too.
Thank you. All right, that will do it for tonight's event. One more time, congrats to Eddie on grabbing his first win of the season, first career win, and, of course, locking himself into that Final Four. Want to give a big shout-out to all of our league admins, David Hartney, Eddie Morris, Sylvain Seagoin, Brian Nudie, and Devin Butchino. Without them, this league would not run as smoothly as it does. Want to give a big thank you to series sponsor Dev Sports Cards for all of their support of the SCSRA Xfinity Series and Intensity Broadcasting. I make sure to go check out the eBay store and pick up some sports cards and gaming cards. They've got everything from, of course, football cards to a John F. Kennedy cashmere sweater card. So you can get everything on Dev Sports Card. I put the link to the eBay store in the description. Make sure to go check out the Butt Kicker. Thank you to them for partnering with Intensity Broadcasting. I put their website in the description. Easy to install, really enhance the iRacing experience. Always make sure to use mine when on the sim. You heard Joe Wright talking about how awesome it was using his throughout tonight's event when he would get a push. I mean, you can feel every little thing, so definitely consider grabbing a Butt Kicker if you are an iRacer. And, of course, I want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in to watch tonight. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Intensity Broadcasting on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, as that would be greatly appreciated. We're trying to reach our goals of 2,500 followers on Facebook, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and 1,000 followers on Twitch. Check out our Twitter page, Intensity Broad 1. We're always dropping polls and interacting with our viewers on there. And make sure to visit our web store, intensitybroadcasting.com. We've got merchandise from your favorite broadcaster, your favorite drivers, your favorite leagues, and so much more. Got all of our Intensity Broadcasting merchandise on there. At Lewis Racing merchandise. At Lewis Racing actually just dropped a bunch of new merchandise for the 2023 racing season, so make sure to go pick some of that up. We got a bunch of cool auto racing novelty items. We got our driver collections, or lifestyle collections, or team collections, and then, of course, our league collections. Make sure to especially check out the SCSRA section of the league collections and pick up an SCSRA t-shirt that comes in 5 snazzy colors in sizes small to 5XL. Next week, it will be the final race of the round of 8. We'll find out who will be making their way to the championship race, who will make their way to the Final Four, and that is going to be at Nashville Superspeedway, 135 laps. You are not going to want to miss that one, so make sure to turn on your notifications bell so you do not miss next week's Round of 8 finale. I'm Atlee Atman-Leishman on behalf of the entire Intensity Broadcasting team. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Over and out.